Oh, hey y'all, Boogie Night here. And I just sat through 2+ hours of my life that I never will get back. Unfortunately. Because I just sat through what can only be described as 1% milk Dune for the millennials, aka Warcraft. I'll be honest with you guys, I was so bored out of my skull, I pretty much considered walking out through the first half of it. So, let's get this out of the way quickly as humanly possible. And before anything else happens, before you start saying, oh yeah, he blah 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 blah, he couldn't hack it. Look, I have not seen one single critique, one single review of this movie, whether it was on YouTube, whether it was in the local papers. I have not been to any single plot synopsis, TV tropes, Wikipedia, that kind of thing. And once again, if you start going, oh, well, he doesn't understand it. Look, I played the first Warcraft, Orcs vs. Humans, back in the early 90s. I played Tides of Darkness in the early mid-90s, when it was still RTS doing their thing. I even tried to give Warcraft 3 a go-ahead, knowing full on that whenever Blizzard does a third game, it goes off a cliff. I still tried it, and it did not work. So I am sorry, but I went into this movie 100% blind, and all I can say is, unless you are a hardcore fan of the Warcraft series, who has a huge knowledge of the backstory, the lore, all the characters, you're gonna be let down, because this had nothing to do with the original trilogy of Warcraft, or what a lot of hardcore fans are thinking turns into World of Warcraft. No. I know I'm jumping on the title bandwagon, but this movie can only be described as Warcraft to the nth degree. It was, oh my god. From the plot, to the dialogue, to the characters, to the effects, it was just bad. From start to finish. I wish I had gone to Wikipedia or TV tropes or any other website that would have given me some knowledge so I could at least brace myself. The only joy I took away from this was the girl sitting to my left looked about as miserable as me. Whereas her boyfriend or fiance or guy she was on a date with, I'm not really sure, looked like a kid opening presents at Christmas. So at least I wasn't the only person that was just going, like, just bored out of my skull. Come to think of it, I should have actually asked for her number. Because that dude ain't getting any love for a long time, I can guarantee you that. So let's just go ahead and dive right into this. So, I don't even know where to start. Plot in a nutshell. Orc world dying, create portal to go from orc world to human world. Portal can only be sustained through sacrificing lives. Orcs go to human world. Orcs do a ravaging through their horde, through the different villages. Travis Fimmel shows up. And I'll be honest, I saw Travis Fimmel, I did go like this for a split second, because I wanted to see him like Ragnar Lothbrok from Vikings. I wanted to see him kill some people. In a fun, savage way. And no, he plays like Orlando Bloom did in Troy. Whiny as hell. He was like the reluctant soldier. It was just, he's there to defend his nation, I get that, that's fine, whatever, blah, 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 blah. But just his whole persona, maybe just because I was spoiled by Vikings, was so anti-Ragnar. Like, I wanted to see him, like, take on some, Christians and do some ratings and whatnot. So, anyway, so the orcs are the horde, I guess, is comprised of several different clans that all have Blizzardish names. I mean, I wish that I could come up with some other name, but honestly, if you played any Blizzard game, whether it was Warcraft, StarCraft, anything like that, you're going to get these generic names. So, you've got, I guess, what can only be described as the anti-hero, Durotan and his pregnant wife go through the portal with the Horde, despite him being like, I don't know, man, I guess. And he's always had some reticence. They give birth to a kid, blah, blah, blah. Orcs keep doing their raiding party. The humans are investigating the deaths, led by Travis Fimmel. They come across some sort of renegade mage who's saying the same force that is destroying Orc World is found on these dead bodies, and they want to go consult with, I guess the Guardian or the Messiah or the Second Coming or whatever. Honestly, I wish that I was drunk when I saw this movie, or had been drinking. I should have brought my flask with me, because every single super fan in there, which was quite a few of them, every time some sort of character, I guess, from the backstory showed up, they squeed, and every time I heard a squee, I wanted to just take a drink. It got to the point within the first hour that a group of superfans behind me would not stop talking, that I actually turned around and said, would you shut up? I'm trying to watch this piece of crap. Yeah, that actually did work for once. Congratulations, Berserk button pressed. All right. So, humans realize this weird funky magic is running amok. Orc dudes realize that while they're doing raidings, the orcish leader discovers, not even discovers, knows that is under the influence, I guess, of the same force that's ripping apart Orcland, and wants to use it to overrun human land. Because, I've destroyed one world, let's destroy another one. Ugh. Al Gore, you couldn't have been any closer to the truth with that. Heyo. I was so bored during this movie. It was so predictable. Reluctant Orc Man has his aha moment shortly after the humans realize that. He leads his little clan to meet up with the humans to say, hey, I'm sorry that this is the case. So, renegade orcs team up with humans to take on the Orc Horde. Obviously, it doesn't go according to plan. And evil Orc destroys Reluctant Orc. And humans continue doing their thing. Teams up with the elves, other groups. And long story short, the supposedly epic battle doesn't really go according to plan. And I'm going to get into this points later on. But at the end of the movie, once again, sequel baited, because Reluctant Orc and his pregnant wife have kid in the beginning of the movie, and the kid gets sent down the river like it's the second coming of Moses, except without the Y chromosome, and ends up at the feet of some human. And somewhere during the course of this time, after the epic battle, quote unquote, with bad orcs versus humans and good orcs, people die. I'm sorry, I know I'm being extremely vague on this, but I was so bored throughout this, I think I might have actually fallen asleep for a couple of those time frames. I would rather read a James Michener novel than watch this movie again. I would rather rewatch Medea Christmas, because that gave me cannon fodder to talk about the poorly executed everything. Ugh. So, as I've said before, I know I call this kind of similar to Dune, and I guess that's kind of poor. I don't mean any kind of offense towards Dune. Not my lifestyle, not my weapon of choice. Also a movie I was bored with, mainly because I didn't understand the backstory. And that's what this movie is, but to a more hardcore degree, but without the skill. Dune had, plot drivers, it had MacGuffins, it had character development. This was just walking scene, battle scene, walking scene, battle scene. Occasional character exchange, but once again, unless you are so ass deep in the backstory, you will not understand this and you won't care. I'm sorry, Travis Fimmel, but you betrayed Odin with this movie. It was just dumb, static, and I couldn't give two shits what happened to your character. And as for the sequel bait at the end, I really, really hope the negative feedback that I'm giving, and I'm hoping that there's other negative feedback, well actually my opinion doesn't matter two shits in a bush. I hope any kind of other feedback, if it's negative, reaches the ears of the producers and the directors that says don't do this again. Or if there is a sequel, I really hope to God it's Uwe Boll because nobody else could take it seriously. If you've seen any fantasy, epic, RPG, fantasy thing, like even I know Lord of the Rings, that kind of sets the bar right there. The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, Willow, looking at my collection over there. Any kind of fantasy sci-fi movie that came before this has had it done from plotline to lore to characters, and it is done up here, whereas Warcraft is down here. You can't even see my hand. I couldn't care less. I'm not going to remember this movie when I wake up tomorrow. I'm not going to remember a damn thing other than the fact I just spent $15 on this piece of shit. And that's on the plot and the characters alone. The special effects were horrible. Like, I saw just the makeup and the special effects on the orcs. It was poorly done. The magic special effects looked like it was something out of the video games, which is not a compliment. The swords and the fighting, it was poorly. It was just not well executed. It was like somebody had the epic idea and got sick or had food poisoning, or it was like something out of the pornocracy where he slept with a mistress and she said, no, I'm going to give you my opinion, and he took it. That sounded really sexist, I apologize. But it was like, you had this epic scale for battles and characters and special effects, but you crapped all over it. Honestly, older movies were so much better. Even Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves had better special effects than this. I couldn't care less. The chick to my left couldn't care less. I'm hoping there were some other fans in the theater that couldn't care less, but judging by the effect of groaning, I think there was only maybe half a dozen of us. I walked out of that movie theater and felt like Brad Jones whenever he saw, well, anything. Any kind of religious movie, like, the hell did I just watch? I'm sorry, but if Blizzard's trying to reach out to the non-in crowd, you lost hardcore. It wasn't, and even for the Warcraft fans, even for the World of Warcraft fans, unless you know the backstory, like I said, you're not going to care. Yeah, there were some characters in the movie, I guess, that some of the hardcore fans remembered, like Medivh and Durotan and Golden. The only reason I know that name is because it sounds like my buddy's last name. And a couple other things. But I'm sorry. Some of the battle scenes and just the gore and the attacks, they were better special effects in the Dragon Strike tutorial, and that board game came out in the early 90s. God, If you were going to do a movie on the Warcraft saga, do it from the beginning. Don't do it on the backstory and the points of origin. Do it on the first one, and if you want to talk about the backstory, compare it to orcs and humans, and then between battles or raids or whatever, throw in a couple of cutscenes like that. I mean, I'm sorry, guys. There's nothing left to talk about. Paper-thin plot, horrible rendering of special effects, CGI was god-awful, characters I couldn't care less about, and just overall bored to tears. If you want a fantasy epic RPG, stick to Lord of the Rings, stick to the old Robin Hood movies. Just, I'm looking at my book collection on the shelf right now, and honestly, there's nothing left to say. Guys, Warcraft, 0 stars, bored out of my mind, probably more bored than you are watching this review, because there's just nothing to say. I wish Greg was in town, because at least he and I could do some, back and forth smack talk. Or anybody, but sorry guys. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Go directly to hell and avoid this piece of shit. So, on that note, hope you guys like it. If not, kiss my ass. Peace.